Yeah, how you guys doing? From our last analysis, this is what we analyzed about that particular trade on Aussie USD. Although I told you that I was not comfortable with the trade because I didn't see any smart money move like this one. But regardless, it actually still entered there. It triggered and it went down a bit. It held the support. Um, the yeah, the support or resistance. I don't even know. He held the support here, then he went up because ordinarily the trade was not backed up by smart money. So, but ordinarily, if I had just gone for a 1:4, which many people go for, and it's like wonderful, that would have been a winning trade. But that aside, this is a new day, so we have to look at the market afresh, at least for you guys. So we have to start with the daily time frame. So what's happening on the daily time frame? Now we notice that there is a massive gap in the daily time frame over here, but we're not going to really put too much details on it from a daily time perspective. We'll go down to a 4 hour time frame to really dissect what's really happening here. So we notice that the market is still going down. It has broken this trend over here, this structure over here. So we assume that the market is still selling. So we're going to keep that in mind while we are actually going for an execution. Now we have seen that okay, the market actually broke down, and you'll be wondering what is this space over here. Now this usually happens during the weekend where the market closes on a Friday. Usually there are not supposed to be any trading activities on Saturday and Sunday. But because this is actually currencies that we are trading, even if forex traders don't trade, that doesn't mean that on Saturdays and Sundays that normal people don't like use currencies, buy and sell in their normal life. It does not have to be through a forex brokerage. You understand? So those activities also affect the market. And the market, when it opened at this point over here. It went up for some time, then ultimately it went down and it closed this here. And the market is regaining itself. Now, usually we still call this space that it give, well, we call it what? A gap. Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in so we get it. We usually call it a gap also. You understand? And most times the market attempts to fill in this gap. You understand? Because like this now the market structure does not even make too much sense. You understand? So most times the market wants to use to fill in this inefficiency before it continues. Because if you can actually look at this from a nutshell, this movement just look like a one big move from here down to this side, which is a push to the downside. That's what it just looks like. Okay, so we're going to treat it as that, and we'll see here some inefficiency in the market. So what do we do from here now? What we do is that we go to a lower time frame to see things more clearly. Let's check out the 1 hour time frame and know what's happening there. Uh, let's check out the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so as we can see, if you notice, there was a massive candle right here that broke these small substructures over here. Although this push didn't break this structure here, it didn't. But we noticed that at the end of it, when we woke up this morning on a Monday morning, we saw that the structure has been broken. And we already assumed that this is one big push to the downside. So, in as much as we are not fully confident, that is the only explanation that we can give for this technical analysis. So, what next do we do? Straightforward and simple. We assume here as the highest high that the market, had before moving to the downside, and it even makes sense because if you notice, there was what we called a lot of liquidity at this point here in the market because the market was maintaining a high and it looks like the market cleared the high over here, then it moved to the downside. So it still makes sense for us to see this as a trading opportunity. Just that we have to be patient in times like this because we have to wait for the market to come back to this zone before the push that break the structure. And from the look of things, from here down up to this point is about like maybe 80 to 100 pips. And since we mostly do swing trade, we don't really mind. I think that is a better way of doing things than rushing to look for trades over here when we see that clearly there is no smart money involved. These are just normal retail traders doing their thing in the market. So we're going to highlight this whole green candle minus the wick of down green candle. and this is like a potential area we can start looking for trades. Although when the market starts coming close to this point, our entry is definitely going to change. Our entry is definitely going to change because we'll have to go down to maybe a 15 or 5 minute time frame and probably redefine this particular entry to this place only over here just this week, depending on what the market shows us before it gets to that point. You understand? Prior to that, there's a kind of structure the market might move here. Let's say, for example, the market does this and it comes down and it breaks here very, very well. There's a movement from here to this upside. We can potentially be a looking for how would I put it? We're potentially looking for like an entry from this point over here that the market can come down to and move us into this zone before we now look for our sell to the downside. Now, all these things are all hypothetical. You understand? It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. But I'm just trying to tell you that the only way we can look for buys is in this scenario. You understand? But aside this scenario playing out, meaning that it doesn't create a structure for a buy, although I feel it would, it can't just be moving up like this. It doesn't make any sense. It must create liquidity. For it, if it doesn't happen as I just predicted it to happen, what we will have to do is that if this market wants to continue on a downtrend, we would have to wait for the market to break this structure that it's in set over here. Then we will now look for how it broke the structure here. We are going to look at the candlesticks that was involved, if there was a smart money involvement in the break of this particular structure, then if we get it, we'll look for to enter from around here. Then we'll target these highs and maybe highs just below it as our entry and our exit. So that is what we could anticipate. So those are the two things we are going to be looking out for if we are not waiting for the market to reach here. The first one is that we're going to wait to see if the market continues on an uptrend. We look for an entry, take us to this particular point where we're looking for a sell to the downside. If the market does not buy, what we do is that we're going to continue for the sell to the downside. But for before we can consider the sell to the downside, this structure here must be broken before we can now say, okay, let's consider a sell market. So that is that from this particular pair. That is my analysis. But just to be safe, I think I will just set an order here, just in case I miss any reasonable movement just to the downside. I can set an order like this to the downside. Okay. It looks big, I know, but like since the reward I'm targeting is also large, it makes sense. This one is to 7 that I'm targeting. So 21 pips stop loss and a risk to reward of 1 is to 7. So although I'm very sure that I wouldn't wait for this to happen. I'm sure I won't wait for this to happen. But this is just like an analysis. It's a valid analysis. You understand? But so many things could play out. The market can break this structure to the downside. I have to now look for sales at an earlier point, or the market could actually create a buy signal to the upside. You understand? And I can actually look for that buy that can take me up to this point. You understand? I'm not going to be looking to take the buy above here, even if I want to take profits, because I'm not sure that the market is going to break here just yet. So I will take my profits just close to this zone if I'm actually looking for a buy. That's if the market creates a buy signal for me. Okay. So that is that for that. There's really nothing here at the moment. I think most pairs will be similar to this particular because I think the movement was on USD and it's literally going to affect almost all the USD pairs. Like I said, most of these pairs they are correlated. So I think something similar is also happening here. You understand? So I don't really think we'll see great trading opportunities today, except two things happen. The structures are broken to the downside for more sales, or the market fill up this inefficiency. You understand? Those are the two things that almost every reasonable trader will be looking out for it to happen. I think also in pound also you understand? It has to fill up this small pot. If you look at it, just from my eyes looking alone, I'm not saying this is how you should analyze it, but from what I'm seeing here, this point here is actually a good place to start looking for sales from because any if the market chooses to go above this point, what does it mean? It means that the market is on an uptrend because it has broken the recent high. You understand? And we know that the market is trending to the downside from what we have seen over here. This is the trade we took, and we actually won the trade, just barely won it based on our take profit. But that is by the way. My point is that at this point, it looks like the market is buying if you just look at here, but we have to now consider the fact that the market broke this structure over here from the gap. So we cannot still consider this a buy market because from the weekend we notice that people are buyers in the sales to the downside. So we can't still consider this a buy market even if it has given us this structure of higher highs and higher lows. You get, you can't just assume that this market is a buy market because if you notice, the market actually went down and it went up here. So it hasn't really done much. It has not broken this structure over here. But for it to be considered in an uptrend, it has to take out this high. This high has to be taken out. And it hasn't done that yet either. So what we're going to do for today, that is Monday, when things like this happen, it's advisable for you to just sit on your hands and wait. Just wait because you don't really know what you're supposed to really do. The market has not really presented a very clear structure to you. And if you want to force any trade now, it will be more like a gambling. Except maybe your strategy is something totally different from what I'm seeing. Maybe your strategy is on a lower time frame, maybe like 1 minute and 5 minutes. Yeah, you can find one or two things that you can just scrabble yourself into. Although I've said so many times that the lower time frames, their information that they give you based on the candlestick, they are not really reliable compared to a higher time frame. Because higher time frame shows a more detailed structure. You understand? Smart money they don't use 1 minute and 5 minutes to trade. They don't look at those things. Those things are just mere activity happening by the minute and by the second. And you cannot really say you want to use that as a solid proof of this is the evidence I want to use to trade. You understand? Because the results on the lower time frames they are very inconsistent. You understand? The data we collect from technical analysis are from higher time. So I've been saying too much already. So the pairs I actually trade, I think they're actually going through the same thing. This is GBP USD. I think it also has the same issue. Either it breaks the structure or it comes up here and I look for a sell, or it does a buy signal here. I look for a buy around here, ride it over to this point. But if I don't see any of that, then for now, I think that will be all for today's analysis. So I'll keep you guys updated on what the market does. So do well to come back to check in and try and also get my mentality during this analysis. Try and see how I'm thinking, where I'm thinking from, so that you too on your own you can do it in a very, very good way. You don't have to do it exactly the way I do it, but just have that same thinking process of how it's being done. And I think that you'll be very, very good. So subscribe, please like this video. It's a new channel, help me to grow. Any kind of engagement you can give to me, if you can share it to your friend, I'll really, really appreciate. See you guys later.